If you ask almost anyone, anywhere in the world, what company makes Tiger Balm, they might pause for a second,
Right.
maybe scratch their head, but they'll know the product instantly. It's that iconic little red or white jar that's been soothing aches and pains for
Of
generations.
course.
But here's the thing we found in the sources for this deep dive, and it's kind of startling. The company behind it, Hopar Corporation, is fundamentally not a healthcare company.
And that's the core tension we need to explore today.
Mhm.
We've done a deep dive into the Hopar Corporation's 2024 annual report,
Mhm.
and we also looked at some really fascinating historical notes about its deepest cultural roots, specifically the story of Hopar Vizilla.
Okay, let's unpack this structure because it's way more complex than just a company making ointments. We're looking at really a powerful conglomerate built on four different pillars.
That's right. You've got investments, healthcare, that's the Tiger Balm part.
The part everyone knows.
Then property and leisure. So our mission today is to really dissect those 2024 results, understand where Hopar's immense profit really comes from, and then put that modern financial engine up against the company's deep cultural history.
And we can probably give the key takeaway right at the top.
We can, and it defines everything. While the operational divisions, the healthcare, the property, the stuff the public actually sees,
Right.
they face some real challenges in 2024. But the company's overall stability and, more importantly, the majority of its profits came from its massive strategic investment portfolio.
So you're looking at a pharmaceutical company that's sort of a high-performing financial fortress in disguise.
That's a perfect way to put it, a fortress.
Fortress is a great analogy. For you listening, let's just establish the sheer scale of this before we even talk about a single jar of Tiger Balm. How much wealth are we talking about here?
The scale is immense. I mean, it's not what you'd expect. For the year, the group reported total assets of $4.3 billion, with shareholders' funds just a little under that, at $4.1 billion. Now, look at how that's allocated. A massive $3.188 billion of that
3.2 billion.
is classified as financial assets.
Hmm.
We're talking strategic, long-term, quoted equity investments.
So wait, that's roughly 75% of the entire company's assets.
Exactly. 75%. It's a jaw-dropping ratio.
It's like saying the real moneymaker isn't the family business, but this quiet, separate bank account that's just been growing and growing.
It's absolutely true. I mean, imagine you own a really successful chain of restaurants, but the dividend income you get from your stock portfolio in major banks actually makes you more reliable profit than the food you sell.
That's Hopar.
That is Hopar. They're in the business of holding highly successful shares, often in cornerstone companies within the region.
And when you say cornerstone companies, what are we talking about specifically? Who's paying the bills for all this Balm?
Well, the holdings are very strategic. They hold significant stakes in powerhouses like United Overseas Bank UOB and UOL Group Limited.
Oh.
So these aren't just speculative bets. They're long-term, deeply entrenched positions that give them incredible stability. In fact, the market value increases on these assets are what drove the net asset per share up from $15.17 to $18.74.
That sounds like a company just built for resilience. So let's look at the actual profit mechanics for 2024. The group did report respectable revenue growth, right? Up 5% to about $245 million.
Yeah, but if you only look at that top-line number, you miss the real story.
So where did the power come from?
The investment holdings. They were the engine room. Group profits were overwhelmingly supported by a 10% jump in other income. And what's other income? It's passive returns.
Right.
Dividend income alone jumped 9%, and interest income rose even faster, up 16%. This is just cash flowing in from those stakes, acting as a huge buffer against any operational noise.
It's incredible. The company's famous from one product, but its financial health is from bank dividends. That must explain the incredibly generous shareholder distributions.
It's a textbook demonstration of financial confidence. They have this strong, highly liquid cash reserve of $745.8 million.
$745 million in cash.
And with that, they felt secure enough to announce a staggering payout. The total dividend for FY 2024 was $1.40 per share.
$1.40 a share. Wait, was that just the regular dividend?
No, and that's the headline. That $1.40 total included a remarkable one-off special dividend of $1.
$1.
A full dollar. And when you compare that to the 40 cents per share they paid in 2023, you can see the board is signaling extreme confidence. They basically looked at the cash pile and said, we can reward shareholders and still have plenty left over.
That makes perfect sense. The fortress dictates the policy. But now let's talk about the legacy, the reason people even know the company. Healthcare. Revenue grew here, but this is where we see that conflict we mentioned.
That's the perfect way to frame it.
Yeah.
The healthcare division, anchored by Tiger Balm, saw its revenue climb 6% to $226 million.
So the brand is strong.
Incredibly strong. Consumer optimism is rising. Demand is robust. The product is selling more units than ever.
And where was it booming the most?
The regional momentum was undeniable. Sales to ASEAN markets led the charge, up an impressive 21%. And it's not just regional. They saw strong performance in the West, too. Europe and North America grew 16%.
Okay, so a slight dip in other Asian countries, but overall a huge success.
A huge success, yes.
So here's the puzzle. If the product is selling 6% more, why did the actual operating profit for the healthcare division decrease by 4%? This is the core conflict.
The answer is margin compression. It's a textbook case of global volatility hitting a physical product.
Yeah.
Despite selling more, they were making less profit on each unit because the gross margin shrank. It dropped from 58% down to 55%.
So they're selling more jars, but the cost of getting that jar to the consumer is just soaring.
Exactly. The source material is very clear. Rising operating and freight costs. They point to geopolitical conflicts, the tensions in the Middle East, the crisis in Ukraine.
Right, shipping lanes.
These events disrupt logistics, push up insurance, and shipping fees. I mean, the cost of sales for that division went up by 14%. Their core product is essentially paying a war tax.
Wow. So the brand is resilient, but the logistics are brutally exposed. It sounds like management is trying to control what they can control, though. Tell us about the new plant in Johor.
This is where you see the financial fortress supporting the legacy operation. Management acted fast. They pushed forward the start of commercial production at their new facility in Johor, Malaysia. It started operations in September 2024.
So they beat the original timeline.
Beat it by a good few months. The original plan was 2025.
That sounds like a massive capital expenditure.
It is, and it's a calculated move. Management even acknowledged it. They said, look, this creates a temporary trade-off. Because they rushed it, they have excess capacity right now, which is hitting their gross margin.
A short-term hit for long-term gain.
Precisely. They are using the stability from those investment billions to absorb this immediate cost, to future-proof their manufacturing against the very pressures that plagued them in 2024.
That's a really powerful connection between the two halves of the company. Okay, let's move on from Tiger Balm and look at the smaller segments. Property and leisure.
Right, these two combined only saw a modest 1% increase in revenue.
Yeah.
But within the property segment, it was a tale of two cities.
A real duality.
A complete duality.
Mhm.
You had strength in one market and serious headwinds in another.
Give us the good news first.
Singapore performed remarkably well. Ha Par Techno Center, their light industrial space, had an average occupancy of 96%.
Very healthy.
And their office space, Ha Par Glass Tower, was also strong at 94%. This just reflects the stable, mature nature of Singapore's commercial property market.
So where was the pain?
The pain point was Kuala Lumpur. Their property there, Menara Par, was under significant pressure all year. They ended 2024 with an average occupancy of only 47%.
Ouch. Less than half full.
Yeah, and it's a direct result of market dynamics. Stiff competition from new, modern office spaces flooding the market, combined with weak tenancy demand. It's just a very tough environment.
That brings us to leisure, which is mainly Underwater World Pattaya in Thailand. Aquariums are always so sensitive to tourism.
They are, and unfortunately, the verdict was a decline.
Yeah.
Revenue for the Pattaya operation decreased, mostly due to weak domestic sentiment in Thailand.
So fewer local visitors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you combine that revenue drop with rising operating costs, and the overall operating profit for the leisure segment was down.
So if domestic demand is down, you have to get creative. What was their response?
They pivoted hard to visitor engagement. They started a series of rejuvenation works to keep the place looking fresh.
Mm-hmm.
And they got really creative with marketing. We saw things like themed exhibits.
Mm-hmm.
The sources mentioned a popular underwater Santa during the holidays, which they pushed on social media.
Oh, fun.
And crowd pullers like free admission on Children's Day, plus their classic mermaid performances, which are always a big draw.
So were they able to offset the domestic weakness with international guests?
They showed great agility there. They actively pushed into new markets like Kazakhstan and across South Asia. They specifically noted strong success in attracting guests from India, which is a huge and growing tourism source.
This all brings us back to where the corporation started. We've talked about the financial fortress, the product duality, but we have to revisit the Ah brothers, the tiger and the leopard, and the unique cultural legacy that gave the company its name, Ha Par Villa.
That history is really the soul of the company. Ha Par Villa, or the Tiger Balm Gardens, was built in 1937 by Ah Boon Ha, the tiger, for his brother, Ah Boon Par, the leopard.
And it wasn't built for profit.
Not at all. It was built with the explicit purpose of teaching traditional Chinese values, mythology, and morality through these spectacular, sometimes terrifying dioramas.
Including the notoriously graphic 10 Courts of Hell. It's a place designed to educate, which is so different from what we think of as corporate legacy today.
Absolutely. And historically, the park was open to the public for free, reinforcing its role as a community asset. It's also fascinating to see how it's evolved. Like the iconic dragon head was removed back in 2004. The focus now is really on preserving that original cultural value.
And speaking of brotherhood, the corporate governance today sort of mirrors that founding relationship, doesn't it? The current chairman and the president and CEO are brothers.
They are Wee ECAO and Wee E Lim. And this current leadership also maintains extensive commitments within those key financial holdings we mentioned, like UOB and UOL. It just reinforces how central that investment world is.
Right.
It also gives you some insight into how efficient that arm of the company is. It's worth noting that the Internal Investment Committee was actually disbanded during FY 2024.
Really? Why?
I think it speaks to a streamlined approach. Given the long tenure and deep experience of the leadership, they've likely centralized that strategic management.
Now let's connect this powerful corporate identity, the tiger and the leopard, back to their modern community efforts. They're ESG focused for 2024.
They maintained strong community contributions. They gave $120,000 to the Singapore Disability Sports Council, which ties directly into community health.
A point of pride, I imagine.
It is. And the sources acknowledge the success of Singapore's athletes at the Paris 2024 Paralympics, mentioning champions like Yip Pinji and Geraldine Tan.
And the animal namesakes, the tiger and leopard, they're not just for show. That translates into conservation.
Precisely. They continued their decades-old sponsorship of the Malayan tiger and leopard exhibits at the Singapore Zoo. I mean, these efforts go back to 1995 and 1986.
Oh.
And they even get their other businesses involved. Underwater World Pattaya took part in the Global Earth Hour movement for the 15th straight year.
So let's step back and summarize this phenomenal duality for you. We've analyzed a company where the vast majority of its value and profit comes from a huge liquid financial portfolio.
A fortress.
This fortress funds operations where the legacy brand, Tiger Balm, is facing intense margin pressure from global conflicts and where its other assets are in a constant battle for relevance.
And the so what here for you is resilience. Ha Par is a masterclass in strategic insulation. It has the financial structure, the immense reserves, the cash to absorb turbulence, to fund huge upgrades like the Johor facility, and to keep supporting its cultural roots.
Even while its legacy segments struggle with outside forces.
They don't need their products to make the profit. They need their products to justify the existence of the brand that allows them to maintain the fortress.
That leads us right into the final provocative thought we want to leave you with. Considering that most of Ha Par's value and earnings come from these stable financial investments, how does the need to maximize shareholder returns, like that massive $1 special dividend, coexist with and financially support the deep cultural and community legacy that gave the company its name, especially its commitment to free heritage assets like Ha Par Villa? It's a complex balance of maximizing profit while maintaining purpose.